Now, as we come down from New York, we arrive down at the South Atlantic, and we start to draw a sea turtle. The head will be here, then we'll come down the head, we'll draw a flipper, we'll go around the body, we'll draw another flipper, go around the body, draw another flipper, go around the body, draw another flipper, go around the body, and then we'll come back and finish it at the head, and then we'll sail back to New York. That's 6 months. We think, and we hope we can do it. That sort of thing has never been done before.
We had a storm near Madère, and it was the worst storm because we broke one sail, the jib, and we broke also the of the mainsail in 2 parts. And it's a very big piece of wood, very big piece of wood, and it's broken. I was sleeping. It was in the night. I was sleeping, and Reid was looking at the boat outside, and wake up me very quickly. And he said, "Come outside. We need to do some stuff outside. A storm. We are in a storm, and we need to put the sail down. And quick!" And I put my boots, I put my all my stuff on me. I just wake up and I was completely and we are going outside together. First, we're going to the bow press to put the sail down because she was completely broken, and it was completely dark, and there is no moon this night, and we see nothing around, nothing, and we have put the safety harness on the bow press because when there is a storm, the boat rock a lot, roll a lot, like that, and you have the bow press in the water. We have spent a long time on the bow press, and I was stuck with my safety harness, and we have tried to put the safety harness off and stuff like that. It was terrible. And after that, we come back at the wheel to see if the boat is in the right direction. And we just look at the boom of the mainsail, and it was broken in 2 parts. And we say, "Oh my God, we have just finished with the jib, and now we need to do that." And you can see, normally there is only this piece of wood, the round piece of wood here. And she's very long, and she broke here in 2 parts. So, to repair, we have cut 3 pieces of wood. You see 1 piece of wood here, another here, and the same on the other side. It's 3 pieces of wood to repair that. When you're on the top, you can see it's very I don't know the name. You have just a little place to put your feet, and it's very scary. I have tried many times, but I was going almost on the top, but not completely.
That's a photo of my 27-foot, 1,400-pound, designed by James Warham catamaran that I started building when I was 19, finished when I was 20, and sailed across the North Atlantic from North Carolina to the Azores, then Portugal, and my Dutch friend who sailed with me went to Holland, and I sailed by myself from Portugal down to Mogador, Morocco, in southern Morocco, and this is a picture of the boat in the fishing harbor in Mogador, Morocco. One of my friends from the Pacific, a real mentor from me, was a 24-year-old Dutchman that was sailing a 19-foot plywood boat by himself across the Pacific for a few years. And he was the one who really refined my boat sailing and navigation skills. So when he came to North Carolina on his way to Holland, that was when we decided, well, we'd go ahead and take this little catamaran across the North Atlantic to Holland together. So if he hadn't arrived at that point in my life, I never would have made that big voyage with the catamaran. I would have worked my way south down to the Caribbean. But him coming and knowing the experience he had on his little boat, and he said, let's sail across the North Atlantic, then immediately I thought, well, yeah, this is perfect. We can do it. This is a good little boat. And so he gave me the nerve, him sailing with me, the two of us, to sail across the North Atlantic. We didn't go to Holland because it was too cold in the North Atlantic. We sailed to the Azores and then to Portugal. And he left me there and came back 4 months later after I'd sailed by myself down to southern Morocco. And then we recrossed the Atlantic together, but we sailed south of the equator, Salvador, Bahia, Brazil, and that's 1,800 miles south of the Amazon River. So we were there for about a year in Brazil before he left, and I sailed the boat from the Amazon up to the Caribbean. We were on the Amazon River for about a year, and you can tell by this picture that we really blended in to the jungle. No, I don't think there were any really scary moments. I guess we were lucky, but we went across in June, so that's the best time to go, when the weather's the best and it's not the hurricane season. You can expect the best weather, light winds that time of year all across the North Atlantic, and it's typically like that. So we chose the right time to go across the North Atlantic. And we ate rice and beans and onions and potatoes, and I don't believe we fished on that particular trip. We were both feeling like we didn't want to harm any animals, though since then I've been fishing quite a lot to get the good fresh food. We troll our lines, so it's like the lure is skimming along just under the surface of the water, and there's not many varieties of fish out there. It's mostly tuna, mackerel, and there's this fish called mahi-mahi or dorado dolphin. There's a lot of them out in the middle of the ocean. And there's jacks and barracudas, and there's not many more than that we catch.
You know, it's so different because it's Reid who's built his boat. And when he has built this boat, he puts himself also in the boat. And you feel that. The wood in the boat are very interesting because it's a lot of different type of wood and a lot of exotic wood. And there is different color, and I think, you know, the wood is something natural, and the wood always live, you know. It's not like the new materials that you have on the boat. It's a very beautiful piece of wood. And we just find that, I think, on a beach or something like that after a hurricane. And he has kept this part of wood, but he doesn't know what to do with that. And after that, naturally, this piece of wood find its place on the boat. And there is a lot of story about this boat like that. And there is so many carving all around. And now the geranium is a little bit too big for us because you don't use a lot just for tea or something like that, but I prefer to have some plant that I can use to heal, you know, or some stuff like that. And it's here also that we grow sprouts in the little plastic box. It's a lot of work, but it's very good to do that, and it's necessary, you know. It's one biggest part of fresh food with the fish. For 1 year now, I don't eat meat. I eat fish, yeah, because I think it's going to be necessary for me to eat fish during the trip. I don't eat meat, but I eat fish. But I never catch fish. I can't do that. It's impossible for me. It's reduced doing that. I definitely can't. We have stopped at the equator, and I say, okay, I would like to try to do that one time in my life. And I was going in the water, and I have put a rope around me to be always attached to the boat. And I have swim, and the water is very hot, and it was very agreeable. But after a few minutes, I have started to think about what it could be happened. And I have looked around me, and it was so huge, you know, so huge. And the boat looked like so big also. And it was so deep. And you start to think about the shark and some stuff like that. And you start to be paranoid a little bit. And I say, okay, I don't want to stay here more, and I'm going to go back on the boat. It was very scary for me. Yeah, very scary.
It's real. The ocean is real spooky at sea, and it's like being on the edge of a cliff and looking down. There's vertige, and the ocean is wild. And the moment you're in the water, you're separated from the security of your boat, and it's nervous. And I think also because you always imagine you're floating there in the top of the water like that, and a fish can just come out of nowhere and eat you like a shark. And it's hard to get rid of those fears on a boat in the open ocean. When you're in the water, you feel completely helpless like that. Something you don't see is going to come and eat you. But in truth, I love the ocean. I love scuba diving. I started when I was 12. I love to hold my breath and swim around the reefs and swim real deeps, and I saw barracudas and sharks and wasn't frightened out of the ocean. And but at sea, one time I was swimming with porpoises. The ocean was completely calm. We were way out of sight of land, and there were hundreds of porpoises all around the boat. We weren't sailing, we weren't going anywhere, so I put on my mask and fins and snorkels and went swimming with the porpoises. They're all around me, the babies, the mothers, and the fathers. You could see how they were, and the mothers didn't want the babies to get too close, but they were curious and they were coming. I couldn't quite touch them, just like our little wildcat we've got on board. And then I looked up, I looked down, I looked around, and all of the porpoises were gone. And then I looked below me and I saw this great big white shark, all old and scarred, and his fins were bitten and broken, and you could see he looked like a prehistoric creature. And I lifted my head up out of the water and I looked and I saw the boat way over there. So I swam like a porpoise back to the boat. And after that I have felt really uncomfortable in the water, because why did he arrive out of nowhere just there under me when I was swimming and playing in the ocean for those moments? Since that time I have gone into the ocean and untangled the rope out of the propeller. One time that happened, and I went in and did it. And but on the last voyage, the 100 days out of sight of land, I didn't swim in the water once. Laurence did it, but I didn't do it. I was just a little bit afraid to go swimming in the water for those sharks like that. But we'll have a real good wetsuit, dry suit on the boat, and the mask and fins and snorkel. And I know that I can swim under the boat and untangle a rope, or if necessary, clean the bottom a bit. But going swimming just for my pleasure next to the boat while the boat sails, I'd love to do that, but I'm not so sure how much swimming I'm going to do in the ocean during the voyage.
Les chaussons, ça va.
Ça va? Okay. When we leave New York City, we sail out into the Atlantic Ocean, and we sail to the east as much as we can because the trade winds are coming from the east and southeast when we get a little lower. But we'll be beating against the wind until we get all the way down to the equator. And then at the equator, we'll cross the equator, and we'll still be beating against the wind to go south. We'll sail south to about latitude 35, and then we'll turn east in the roaring 40s and sail a few hundred miles below South Africa. There were dangerous times in the Antarctic when the wind was blowing real hard and it was freezing and there were icebergs around and we were trying to maneuver the boat. While we were there, the ice was tumbling in off the glaciers and filling the harbor up with icebergs like this. And luckily, the wind wasn't blowing, so we were able to anchor here and go ashore and push our rowboat through the ice. And as we anchored there, the icebergs are drifting all around, and an iceberg drifted right up behind us and right up against the stern of the boat. And because there wasn't any wind or waves, we were comfortable to let it be there. And this was a beautiful anchorage, and this is one of my favorite photos. This picture was taken as we were motoring into the Antarctic, and this is another day when there was no wind blowing, so you can see how beautiful and glassy the water is. And the mountains come straight up out of the water, and the glaciers fall straight into the ocean. And the land can hardly cling to the rocks because the rocks are so steep. But everywhere the snow is piled hundreds of feet high, and glaciers are moving towards the sea, and they're cracking as they move down, and they're thundering, and the thunder is echoing off the mountains and across the water. It sounds like explosions that are going all of the time. Explosions of the glacier cracking as it goes down the mountain, and the explosions of the cracking ice that falls into the water. You see, that's like a 200-foot ice cliff, and the glacier is going up into the mountains. So the ice is always moving down to the sea, and cracking and falling into the water. Those kinds of icebergs aren't as bad as the icebergs that are made out of ocean water that freezes real thick. And that plate ice is more dangerous for us than the ice that falls off the mountains, because the ice that falls off the mountains is in lots of lumps, and that's not as bad for us as the big plate glass. We wouldn't want to get caught between two pieces of plate glass. That's what could crush us and sink us. We had a lot of experiences that happened to us at sea that were totally new to me. I had never read or heard about the kinds of things we experienced, so we had to pay attention and learn as we went in order to survive down there. On our way to the Antarctic, we had to sail through the roughest waters of the world, the Southern Ocean that circles the globe. From latitude 40 down, there's not hardly any land mass down in that part of the globe, and the wind blows from west to east, around and around the world, and the waves are built up by the wind, and they're never stopped by a land mass, and they keep rolling around and around the world. The waves get bigger and bigger, and when a storm blows, the waves are really big, the biggest in the world, and it's very exciting to be down there. It's a very far, far away place. And in the summertime, when we were down there in that time of the season, it was still freezing cold. We had snow blizzards and hail, and it was freezing cold in the boat. And the other odd thing was that the sun was at such an angle in the sky and never rose very high, but it was up almost all day long. You can see the wind's blowing real hard in this picture because the boat is leaning over, and this red telltale here is what tells us the direction of the wind, and it's straight out. The wind's blowing real hard, but I'm pretty geared up and I'm not that cold, and there's icebergs all around us, and we're coming into our first ice as we sail into the Antarctic, so we're being very cautious, and I'm standing and looking ahead and trying to pick our best way through the ice. At sea, we ran into lots and lots of very big icebergs that were breaking off of the ice shelf and floating out to sea and breaking up as they floated out. And they were fantastic, big, huge mountains. And of course, as they broke up, there'd be lots of little pieces around them. So as we approached the Antarctic, we could see these huge icebergs. And at first, we tried to stay away from them, and then we realized that pretty soon they were so close together that we had to get nearer to them. But we never got so near to them that if they tipped over or broke or cracked, that they'd fall on the boat. But when they floated underwater, they'd get smooth by the wave action on them, and then the part above would be very rough, and then when it cracked or lost its balance, the iceberg would turn over, and then the smooth side of the iceberg that had been all rounded by the ocean would roll up, and some of the icebergs were very smooth and shaped and beautiful, with green streaks and blue streaks. We saw a lot of animals as we got closer to the Antarctic. But there wasn't very many varieties of animals. There was mostly penguins, maybe 2 varieties, and seals, about 2 varieties, and whales. It was hard for us to tell them apart. And the porpoises often came to check us out and swim all around us. And then other times we'd sail by a school of porpoises that didn't even look at us or pay any attention to us. And the penguins are real cute in the water because they seem to just pop out of the water as they jump through the air and back into the water again. So the penguins don't have any land predators, so they're not afraid of us when we come up to them. Only when we get real close do they kind of try to hop away, but they're kind of helpless once they're on the shore, but they've never been worried because they haven't had any predators on the shore. What we want to have is a handheld satellite fax unit. That's the cheapest one we can get. That's about $1,000, and then we'll be able to do fax, email, so we'll be able to carry conversations back and forth like that in a more positive way. In that way, we'll have our website going, and our webmasters will be following us and posting our daily log, our stories that we tell, and plotting our course on the chart as we go. So the New York City school children who we've been speaking to, and 1,000 of them are going to come to the boat before we leave, will be getting seminars about us and how we live at sea and what we're doing. They'll follow us on the website, and when they take their summer break, if they don't have access to the internet, when they come back in the fall, in September, they'll find us way down at the bottom of the turtle, and we will have drawn half of the turtle out. So then they'll follow us for their next months at school until we get back in December sometime.